So my name is Bailey Lewis. I'm Director of Content Strategy at a company called Truematter. And we are a user experience consulting firm. And that might be a lot of words in an order that you may or may not have heard before. But basically what it means is that we create websites, applications, and software products for the people who are actually going to be using them, which might sound intuitive and like common sense, but interestingly, a lot of things online are created without ever taking into account the real people on the other end who are actually have to be going through the process of using the product. And so that's all we do. My part in that is the words. We'll talk a lot more about that in just a minute, but I make sure that everything on our products is readable, understandable, clear, easy to get through, because the words matter. And like I said, we'll get to that in just a minute. I am coming to you from the South Carolina night. I wish I could have been in person with y'all today. I'm sure we all wish that. If you don't know where South Carolina is, or especially our capital city of Columbia, we are about 5 hours north from Disney World, if that helps you at all to understand where I'm coming from in the big old world here. And speaking of the world, we're here to talk about travel booking, in particular yacht charter booking, all this early week. And what I'd like to introduce this presentation with is this thought. The advent of the modern web has changed the nature of how people research, think about, and book travel for good. And it will only continue to change the way they do these things. And so we all know that in this virtual room here. We all know that obviously the internet has changed travel and will continue to do so. But it's something to keep in mind because we take advantage of some ways that the internet has changed travel, and then there are other ways that we don't take advantage of that. And those are the things I'm here to talk to you about today, at least one very large one. Usually content professionals will talk to you about two things when it comes to digital content online, words online. They'll talk to you about clicks, and we want clicks. We want people to find us via search engine, get our marketing emails or our other marketing materials, and come to our site or our application, click through and arrive as a visitor. That's what we want. That's the important first step to get them there. And we want eyeballs. So we talk about eyeballs too. We talk about engagement, getting people to look at you, getting people to notice your site, clicking through and saying, oh yes, I am here and I am about to engage with this site. That's all wonderful stuff. And I know you've had speakers this week who've talked to you quite a bit about that. I am not here today to talk to you about either of those things, because what we typically think is, great, I got someone to click through to my site and they're looking at it. I've succeeded. And so now all I have to do is make sure that it looks professional and I'm done. But that's only the beginning of the journey. That's only step one, getting them to your site, getting them to take a look and see you online. There's a whole world of things that happen after that. And that's the part that we don't focus on as much. So you've got them to your site. What happens now? Here they are looking at it. Here we are looking at a site we're all familiar with. What happens now? Now the clock starts. Now you have up to 10 seconds to convince your visitor that they should stick around and that they should continue the researching, planning, booking journey with you. 10 seconds is tops, and it's a brutally short amount of time. And so we'll talk about in this hour what we need to make sure we're doing in those first 10 seconds, especially as far as the words are concerned. There are some things we try to do to grab their attention in those first 10 seconds. And this is very common. These are the things we talk about and think about. We try to grab them with beautiful photos, say, oh, yes, you want to be here. And I'm not saying any of these things that have the circle with the slash next to them aren't important, but these are the things we try that aren't going to help them take that next step necessarily. So beautiful photos, chat bots. We try deals and promotions to get them to want to book with us. We tell them our company's story and try to differentiate ourselves that way. All of these things are important. I'm not saying to remove any of them, but they aren't the thing that visitors are looking for and needing to do in order to take action on your site or your app, which is what you want them to do. It's the words that are going to help them. The words you choose for your site or your app are what are going to help your visitors understand, not only am I in the right spot, I know what I need to do next, and I can continue confidently in my journey through this research and booking process. When we combine actions with words, we call those content interactions. And these are all the major and minor actions on your site that you need your visitors to complete to be successful. And so for the rest of the time today, we'll be talking about content interactions, the thing that we don't think about immediately and that we almost never discuss. But the thing that we have to focus on right after we get those clicks and eyeballs, get people to our site in order for online success. In other words, the words really matter, and every word matters, and the way you're choosing them will determine your success or whether visitors decide to stick around with you or not. So remember, we have 10 seconds. We're trying to capture their attention. We're trying to tell them that there is something here that they can do. They have not come to our site in vain. We're going to help them out. In those first 10 seconds, they don't know this, but they are looking for strong content interactions. They're looking for the strength of our words to help them along. Strong content and interactions have a few characteristics in common. They are scannable. I can look at just headings, links, buttons, actions, and I don't have to do much work to actually read them. They're concise. They say things in as few words as possible, just as many words as it takes to get the point across. And they're straightforward. They don't try to be clever. Strong content interactions aren't vague. They say exactly what they mean and exactly what the visitor would expect them to say. If you're creating strong content interactions that have these characteristics, then you're creating immediate interest. Your visitors have a clear idea of what action they need to take next, which is critical to them. They have an enhanced understanding of your services and what they can do on your site or app. They can navigate easily. And then you're retaining them. You're keeping them around. You're keeping them through the entire booking journey and turning them ultimately into converted booked customers. Over time, this can lead to return customers. They come back again because it was a pleasant experience. They're referring you to their friends and family saying, this was really a great experience to book with them online. It's giving you a competitive advantage, which is increasing your market share, giving you advantage, of course, over competitors, and over time, creating customer loyalty, creating people who only want to book with you if they're able to because of the experience that you gave them, because it was so easy and they didn't have to do a bunch of extra thinking about it. And of course, that leads to more clicks, more eyeballs, more people coming to your site, more people interacting within the first 10 seconds and getting hooked. And so these are all wonderful things that the words can do for you. Weak content interactions, on the other hand, have a few characteristics. We see these a lot all over the internet. It's not just yacht booking sites. It's not just travel booking sites. These weak content interactions are hard work. We have to read and do our own work to understand what the site is trying to tell us to do. They're long-winded. They don't get to the point. We have to read a lot to understand them. And they're vague. Sometimes we don't even know what clicking on something or reading something might give us because the words aren't really telling us. We have to do a lot of work to figure it out. Over time, and immediately, this can cause confusion, frustration for your visitors. They might abandon your site or app. They might call your poor customer service team and complain to them. Business may go to competitors, which decreases your market share and ultimately leads to loss of profit online. This is particularly true for the travel booking industry, including the yacht charter booking industry, because your visitors have choices. There are some industries where they have fewer choices. But when it comes to travel, first of all, it's, and especially yacht charter booking, this is a mostly voluntary activity. They have a lot of different services they could use. And so it's even easier to strengthen your content interactions and get more business, or have weaker content interactions and lose business. And so it's very critical in this industry. Your weak content interactions means fewer people are coming, fewer people are looking and engaging because they're not getting those referrals. There's not that word of mouth. There's not the whole, this was such a pleasant experience, you need to try it for yourself next time you book something. For your business, this is killer. It's not good. As far as your online business goes, it's bad news. As far as your visitors are concerned, it's frustrating to them. They don't want to have a bad experience when they come to your site or your app. They come there wanting to get something done, and so they might look like this lady here, wanting to throw their computer out the window because they're frustrated, because they're confused, because this is how the smallest frustration can make us feel online. And so it's bad all around. So we want strong words, we want quality content, we want strong content interactions. All of this has to do, especially the only getting 10 seconds and our tendency to get confused easily and frustrated online, it has to do with our brains. And it's all of our brains. It doesn't matter how smart we are. It doesn't matter how educated we are. All of our brains are limited because they're human brains. So even though they're the most advanced brains on the planet, we still have these limitations that impact us every day in our daily lives, but particularly impact us when we're dealing with digital experiences. And so I'll go into a few of those now, and especially the ones that impact how we interact with words online. So the first truth here about our human brains, and a lot of these are not things we like to admit, but they're true. And if we use them to our advantage online, especially with the words that we choose, we'll be far, far ahead of those who haven't admitted this to themselves yet. So the first is that we as humans are easily overwhelmed. We really, if there's too much stimulation, there's too much going on at once, we can really just shut down. And this is particularly true online. So I have an example here. This is the Epic Yacht Charter's homepage. And I chose this because it's a pretty typical example of a yacht charter booking site. We have a pretty standard navigation, contact information, an introductory message, and then filters and a search. So all of this is very, very common. All of these are things that you need, of course, on a yacht charter booking site. But even though this site is pretty simple, there's not a lot going on here, not in terms of what can be going on websites online. I'm sure we've all seen websites that have a lot more going on. I've still counted 22 things that I have to look at and decide whether to interact with or not on this simpler screen. And so each one of these labeled items is actually a type of content interaction. We have every item in the navigation is an action that I can take supported by words trying to tell me what it will do. Down in the search, I have multiple actions that I can take or not take to filter my search results, supported by words telling me what is going to happen. But there's 22 things to look at here. This is a little overwhelming to try to look at everything at once, and so we don't. We're really only looking at the things that we came here for. We're looking for keywords that we know, and we're getting overwhelmed if we try to do anything else. We also don't see very well. Our field of vision is not spectacular. We can really only see about 10% of what's in front of us in any clear detail. So if we were in person today, I would be able to see the first people in front of me in that 10%. I would be able to see them in clear detail and see very clear physical characteristics about them, etc. 30% out off side to side, we can still see, but it's blurry. It's getting very blurry very quickly. And all I could tell about these people over here is that they are in fact people and not, say, lizards sitting in chairs or something like that. And then off to the rest of our peripheral vision, we can't see much at all. So I'm waving my hand off to the side and I can see it, but I only know it's my hand because it's attached to me. If it weren't my hand, all I could see would be movement, and I would have to turn my head to that 10% and see what it is in detail. So that's the world at large, but when you boil this down to a screen, there's an even smaller area that we're looking at, and so our gaze gets even more directed toward only that 10%. Let's take this example of this vehicle, this sports car that you should be able to see on your screen. And there's a pasture behind it, and there's all sorts of lush greenery, but most of us are looking at the car. And when we're looking at the car, everything else around it looks like this. Very blurry, not really paying attention. Online, the same principle applies when we're trying to get things done, and it's even more so blur and focusing on one thing at a time. We already said there's a lot going on for our brains on any given screen. Really, this doesn't have a lot going on, but for our brains, it's a lot. And so most of the time, what your visitors want to do first, the first action they want to take, of course, is to search. They're looking for something in particular. They know their dates. They know where they want to go. They know certain things about what they want their experience to be. And so if they're looking at search, everything else around it is basically non-existent. If there's something really brightly colored on the upper portion of the screen, they might take a look at that, but probably not, because what they're doing is focusing on search. And that is a limitation of our eyesight and the way we process what we're seeing in the world and on our screens. We also only know what we know, and we don't learn very well. And so you don't want anyone to have to learn your website or your application. We are used to set conventions online. We are used to the way we know things work. And for the internet, this is particularly true. This is true of the entire world, but it's particularly true online in the digital space, because us being in that space is so new in terms of our human history. And so if you consider the car, which is not, somewhat digital, but is a physical object, most cars have common characteristics and common ways that they interact, that you can interact with them, because we all learned how to drive a similar type of car. There might be additional features or luxury settings or upgrades, but for the most part, we have a round steering wheel, we have a gas pedal, we have a brake pedal. And if we ever tried to create a car that didn't have any of these things, it would be a tough sell. It would be hard for people to adopt it, because they're so used to the way cars already work. It may even be a flop. Online, we have to consider the same thing. People are very used to the way things work on every site that they visit all day long. And so when we're looking at this Epic Yacht Charter site, there's a lot of convention being used here. There's a logo in the upper left, that's very expected. Contact information in the upper right, expected. Navigation going across the top, also very common, something that people like because they're used to it. There's a tagline, we expect to be told something about this site. And then there's search, which it follows all the conventions of search and drop downs, etc. The only thing on this screen that people probably don't know intuitively what it means is this arrow here. And although in this context, everything I need is above this arrow, so I don't really need to know what it means in order to interact with this site. If this arrow were serving a more critical purpose, and we'll get into that a little bit more, things that are serving a critical purpose and people don't understand what they are. If it were serving a more critical purpose, it may get overlooked. It may not be used because we don't know it yet. We don't, and people aren't going to learn it very quickly. And so they may not know that it's just an arrow to go down to the rest of the page. So here, not so critical, but it is something that's not, it's being used on a lot of sites, but it's still not so broad reaching as to be considered a standard or a norm. Our memory also isn't very good. This is another limitation we have in life and also online. Most of us can only remember 5 to 7 things at a time, keep them in our mind at a time. And some of us, if we're doing really well, can remember 9. And some of us do less well with our memory and can remember 3 things at a time. But most of us are in the 5 to 7 range. And so online, this has big impacts on how well we can remember what was in a list, what was in a navigation bar, and can remember as we make our way and try to make decisions across a site or app. And just for a quick demonstration, we have 10 ocean themed icons here, probably very familiar with them. They're emojis. And if you just take a look at these for a few seconds, remember, we only have 10 seconds tops when someone first comes to your site or app, so I won't give you much longer than that. But if you take just a few seconds and look at this and see how many you can try to remember out of this list. And I'm going to give you just a few seconds more before I switch to the next screen, and I'm going to go now. How many of those do you think you can truly remember if you were to write them down on a piece of paper? If you have a really good memory, it's going to be 7 to 9. If you have not so good a memory, it's going to be 3 to 5. But most people are not going to be able to remember all 10. And so we do have this limitation on how many things we can keep in our mind at a time. This is why I go to the market to buy groceries for the week, and I have a list and I forget my list, and then I just walk out with a bunch of cheese. The difference is that online, if they don't get a bunch of cheese, all they get is confusion and frustration. So we want to keep things simple, and we'll get into that more in just a little bit as well. If we're looking at a navigation bar, this is actually the navigation from the site we've been looking at, all the options. There's about 9 navigation items here, which is really about 2 more than most people can remember. So if we take a look at this and just taking as long as a visitor to our site would take to look at this, and then try to see how many can you remember, it's going to be about 5 to 7, give or take a little bit. And on a website, we have the luxury of being able to look back at the navigation bar and see again what the options are. But if we're busy, once again, looking at a different part of the site, we won't remember what was above necessarily. And the more we look at, the less we're remembering, because we can only keep so many things in our mind. So our memory is a really big part of how we are interacting online, and particularly with the words and information that we're being given. We also have a short attention span. And not only do we have a short attention span, we're not paying a lot of attention, close attention to the things that we're doing online, even if it's something we want to do and we need to do, and we're there to do it. We're not paying that much attention to the specifics. Also, none of us use the internet in a vacuum. None of us sit around in our homes and shut the door and tell no one to bother us while we're using the internet. We're on our phones, or we're being distracted by family members or friends, or we're at work or whatever we're doing. We just aren't paying that close attention for lots of reasons. And so if we have a site that's asking us to pay close attention and read, that can be very difficult for us. And I'll actually talk about this a lot more in the next hour if you join me for the advanced deep dive into this topic. But if we're being asked to do the work of paying attention and reading, it gets tiring for us very quickly. We get exhausted, and we either decide not to do it, or we get frustrated with it, etc. So short attention spans. And the final thing I want to talk about is that when we are threatened, we still respond with the oldest part of our brain. We still respond with a part of our brain that is emotional and just says, danger, let's react. And it's not the logical, educated part of our brain. It's not the thinking, reasoning part of our brain. And this part of our brain does not know the difference between a threat that is physical, like an oncoming train, or a threat that is just on the screen and not probably going to actually cause injury, like a really frustrating interaction. And so I like to call this our lizard brain. It's the oldest part of our brain. It's just reacting to sensory things that come into our lives and emotion. And it's not able to tell the difference, that it's just a computer screen. It's not going to hurt me. I'm just frustrated right now. And so what this does is, if we do get frustrated or confused, it triggers a fight or flight response, which many of you may have heard of. We get threatened and we decide to either fight, which online looks like staying and slamming on our keyboard and maybe cursing and calling customer service and not being very nice to them. Or we flee. We go to a competitor's site if we're able to. And of course, in the travel industry, we are typically able to. And so if anyone feels, any of your visitors feel these bad ways online, confused, frustrated, they're very likely to do one of these two things, fight or flight. All of this is happening in the first 10 seconds that you're trying to get your customer's attention. You're trying to get your visitor's attention and turn them into a converted customer. The clock is ticking the entire time. All of these things are happening, and you're trying to get them to take the first action toward completing their booking process with you. Not only is this all happening from the moment they enter your site, but in the next hour, we'll talk even more about all of the different content and interactions that are across your site. Your entry pages, such as your home page, your landing pages, your marketing pages, may be very straightforward. They might only have a few things to do on them, but necessarily, as we get into searches and results, there's a lot going on. Everything that I've highlighted here in pink is a content interaction that your visitors have to decide to interact with and then interact with successfully to get their tasks done. And so every time they're trying to do something new, you have a matter of seconds to get them to understand it and then do it. Meanwhile, their brain is being limited in all the ways we just discussed. And so I do want to spend the rest of the time talking about these points of entry pages that are the immediate thing that your visitors see when they come to your site or app. And like I said a moment ago, this might be your home page, it might be a landing page, it might be the specific page for yacht charter. Maybe you do sales and charter, you have a landing page just for charter. It may be a marketing page that you send out to people and ask them to click through to introduce them to your company. But these points of entry are critical. There's a lot of other critical content interactions that we're facing and how to deal with them online. And we will get into that in the next hour. But if you do nothing else, these points of entry pages are critical. And they will make or break whether someone stays with you or if someone decides to leave or gets really frustrated, and they might complete booking but be mad about it. So we don't want any of that. There are three things that if you remember for every point of entry page, the first page that visitors land on when they come to you from a link or through Google or another search engine, if you remember these three things I'm about to tell you and always focus on them, you will see vast improvement in your online success and your visitors' happiness, basically, and more of them coming further along in the process, hopefully all the way to the final screen, whether it's a final booking confirmation or an inquiry to send to you so that you can help them complete booking. The first of these is to identify who you are, who's your company, because even though your visitors don't know it, what they're asking themselves is whenever they come to a new site, including yours, am I in the right place? I clicked this. I think that I clicked the right thing. I think that I know what I'm doing, but I want reassurance that I'm in the right place. And we can give them that reassurance in a few ways. The first is our company name. So this is why we usually have our logo prominently displayed on the site. We can use keywords that they are looking for. So if I'm searching for yacht charter, I as a visitor, I want to see the words yacht charter. It's very important to me that I see the words that I thought I was going to see when I get there. And like I said, these should be prominently displayed. They should be large. They should be unmissable to let people know, yeah, you are in the right spot. So you can continue on with this confidently. And so to illustrate some of this, I have the Sail Croatia site up. I believe this is the landing page for yacht charters, not their homepage. But here, I come to the site. I've been here a few seconds already. I only have about 10 seconds before I'm going to make up my mind about whether to continue. And my first question is, am I in the right place? Their logo and name has Sail Croatia in it, which is helpful because sail, and so that gives me an indication. And then also it says yacht charters, about as big as you can get it right here. So I know, yes, I'm in the right spot. Fantastic. I can move on. I'm here. The second thing that you should never ignore if you are looking to improve your visitors' experience and their ability to move into the next part of the journey with you past that first page is they should be able to take immediate action. So they say, okay, I'm here. I'm in the right spot. Now what do I do? Help me. Because online we get confused and frustrated easily. So what do I do next? We can help them out. We can give them a clear, singular action. We can tell them exactly what they need to do. And we can do so using words that they understand and that they expected to see. We can give them this action before they have to scroll to the rest of our page or interact with the navigation or anything at all, because the very first thing they're looking at is just the overall main content of the page they've arrived on. And we can make this short. We can make this as short as humanly possible. Sometimes if you think it's short enough, it's not. It needs to be shortened. Saying this action in the fewest words possible will help people scan it quickly, see what it is, and take action within a nanosecond when seconds matter. And so if we come back to our example of the Sail Croatia site, I have determined that I'm in the right spot. We just talked about that. Now my next question is, what do I do next? Is there something I can do immediately? On this site, there's a search, and search is the #1 thing that your visitors are coming to do on your site. So it's a great first action to be able to take. I can dive into it immediately if I'm ready to. I can tell you exactly when, the yacht type, berths, everything is very concise, everything is very straightforward, everything is short, and search is clear as day. I know exactly what that is. And so I can take immediate action, and I don't have to scroll or do anything else before I can do it. So that's fantastic. I can do it. And the third thing, if you always keep this in mind, that will really help you elevate your site above the others and just start to take that journey of doing that, is your navigation. So the third question your visitor is going to ask themselves is, what can I find what I need here? I'm in the right spot. I can take an action, but if I'm not ready to do some of that, can I find the rest of my information here? And so if our navigation gives them simple options that they understand intuitively without having to think, clearly labels those options, tells them exactly what they'll find when they click into that navigation section, and lets them do all of this without the need to click, the need to hover, any of that, then we are doing a really great job with our content interactions in our navigation. We're creating strong content interactions that our visitors can actually act upon. I do want to take just a minute and discuss this icon. And I'm not sure how many of you will be familiar with it out of context, but these are the 3 lines that we typically use on a mobile device to tap open the menu. This is a content interaction, but in and of itself, it's a weak one because there's no word to support it. And even though on our phones, we've gotten really used to this being in the upper right-hand corner, and we tap the icon, and it opens our menu, and we know that. When we get onto a desktop, we all of a sudden have no clue what this means because we're not used to having used this on desktop. That's how much we only know what we know principle applies to us online. And so if we replace our entire navigation with these 3 lines, and a lot of sites out there are doing this, people will ignore it. People will not know what it means. People will not even know that it's something they can interact with. So we want to stay away from this if we can. And if we're going to use it, we just need to label it menu or navigate, or let people know what is going to happen when they click on this. So only having this symbol as the navigation does not let them know that they can find the things that they're going to need. And I had to take a second aside to say, lots of people are using this. It's not just in the travel industry, but your visitors are very confused because they don't know what it means because it's not standard yet, and it may never become standard. But if we go back to our Sail Croatia website example, if the question here is, can I find the stuff I need here? Can I find the things I need? The answer is yes. If we look at the top navigation, I can see Sail Croatia yachts right there. I'm going to assume that if I click into that, I have more information about yachts and yacht charter. And if I'm already on the yacht charter page, maybe if I scroll down, I'll see more information, and my stuff will be here. So doing a pretty good job of saying, yeah, there's more for you here. Just take a look, and special offers, etc. Anything else that you might need to know is here for you. So that's great. Most web pages online look like this one. So logo in the upper right, that's pretty standard, no big problem there. Some navigation items that are mostly about the company instead of the visitor's journey and task. Your visitors have come to your site or your app to do something, to research, to plan, to make decisions, to book. And a lot of sites, not just in the travel industry or in the yacht charter booking industry, but also some of them within those industries, have navigations that are really centered around the company instead of around the visitor, which makes it hard for the visitor to understand what they need to do. They'll have a few sliders without any immediate action. They'll have some more things down the screen that may be vague or difficult to understand. And then in the upper right, there's something that someone can actually do and take action on. And so if you're keeping in mind the three things we just talked about, identifying yourself, both with your logo, but also as soon as they get there, the very first thing they see, identifying that they're in the right spot, that they can do something and take immediate action without scrolling or looking around, and that they can find the things they came for, the things they need. You'll be ahead of most websites and applications out there. I'd say 90%, you're already way ahead. Because this is what most of them look like. This is standard, and it's not following the three guidelines that we just discussed. If you want to get started by improving your entry pages for stronger content interactions, there are a few steps that you can take right away. You can do it today, or do it tomorrow, or next week, and get going with it. The first thing, of course, is going to be to check your own site or app. Take a look at all the entry pages, your home pages, your landing pages, your marketing pages, anywhere you're directing people to come as their first page or their first screen on your site or app. And while you're checking these, you're checking them for strong content interactions, you're checking them for the three things we've discussed today, but you're also keeping in mind that you are not your visitor, you are not your customer. You know way more about the yacht charter booking industry, travel booking industry. You even know more about what it's like to navigate online because you are someone who has a website or has an application and makes decisions about it. And so you know way more than they do about any of this, even if they use the internet every day, even if they're an experienced and seasoned traveler or yacht charter customer. You still know way more than they do. And so while you're looking at these words, making sure there's something that your customers could understand is really important, because they are wearing very different shoes than you. They are coming from a very different place. They're coming basically straight out of the box. They don't really know. They're looking for guidance. And so if you keep that in mind, you'll be in really good shape. Well, another way to think of this is outside in. So instead of taking your perspective and putting it out to your visitors or customers and asking them to learn it, take what you know they already know and apply that to what you're trying to tell them. Apply that to what your visitors, you want your visitors and need your visitors to do. So instead of using your words and your point of view and your mission, use their words and their point of view and their goals and needs. And that should help a lot. And I wanted to end with one final example, because this one was interesting to me for a couple of reasons, and I'm about to reveal a big one. But this is the Fraser Yacht site. They do sales, and some of you may even know them or be with them here in the room. But I wanted to put them through the 1, 2, 3 test, to the identification, immediate action, navigation test. And so, of course, the first question, am I in the right spot? Well, they have a very strong keywords, prominent keywords, but it's yacht for sale. And if I'm looking for a charter, if that's the first thing I see, I am a little confused as to whether I'm in the right spot or not. So am I in the right spot? I'm not sure. If I'm a visitor asking myself that question, I'm not sure yet. And their logo doesn't say anything about sailing or anything, which is fine. But then this prominent message also isn't giving me the keywords I thought it would. So I'm not sure yet. I also can't take immediate action. That's my second task. There's nothing for me to do here unless I look at the navigation, which as a visitor, I probably have not done yet. I'm probably looking at this prominent text, and then I'm looking for an action, and only then will I go up to the navigation. So I can't take any immediate action here. And then our third question, is what I need here? I think so. In this case, with the navigation, I see buy and sell, but then I see charter. And if that's what I'm looking for, that's the word I'm looking for. And so I can be pretty confident that if I click or hover over that, it'll give me the information I need. So I was looking at the Fraser Yacht site. There's lots of good stuff going on with that site, and lots of good examples to be taken from it. And I decided to come back to it a couple weeks later. I think it's a couple of weeks ago, and they've redone the site, at least the entry pages, at least the homepage. And it's almost as if they were here with us today in this room already, listening to this presentation. So I wanted to take us through what they've done and how what they've done very, very closely adheres to the 1, 2, 3, the 3 things we've been discussing for our entry pages. So here's the new homepage. And I put it through the questions again. I said, okay, am I in the right spot? The larger text doesn't tell me that I am. I have to read a little bit, but then it says in search of the perfect yacht charter vacation, those are probably words I'm looking for. I know I'm in the right spot. And then it says yachts for charter. If I'm looking for yachts for charter, it couldn't say it any clearer. So now the answer is yes, I'm in the right spot. I know that I am. I can take immediate action. I can't search right away, but I can look at yachts for sale if that's what I came here for, or yachts for charter if, like your visitors, that's what I'm coming here for. So the answer to this one's yes, it passes. And then what I need is here. Yes, they haven't changed the navigation. So that word charter did lead me to hover and see more of what is in their navigation. There's quite a lot going on here, but I know that what I need will be here. If I have a question or I need any information about chartering a yacht, it'll be here for me. And so 1, 2, 3, it passes. If you put your own entry pages through these questions and through that process, and answer honestly about what it's doing, and then you'll be in a really good spot to be making improvements to your content and your content interactions. Basically, the takeaway here is that if you use the right words, you use the words that your visitors know, you use clear, concise, straightforward words, and you give those words to your visitors right away as soon, like the minute, the second, can't be the minute, within 10 seconds of them coming to your site or app. It's the difference between them clicking and looking and getting to your site and staying and going through the process with you and becoming your new customer, and the thing we don't want, which is for them to click and come to your site and get there and engage with you and then promptly leave. So thank you. And my name is Bailey Lewis. I am online, and I'd love to talk with y'all some more. I think there's some questions that we can take as well if anybody has any. But please do reach out after the conference, especially since we couldn't all be together. I would really love to hear from any of you who are interested in the topic of words and content online.